Hello students, welcome back to English class. Today we are going to study the lesson Glimpses of the Past. The lesson gives us a short and prescribed description of events that took place in our country from 1757 to 1857. It enlists incidents that led to widespread revolts known as the First War of Independence. It provides a glimpse of how the British East India Company expanded its power in India and exploited Indians, how they robbed landlords and farmers of their land, created situations that led to famines, and pushed patriots to launch widespread massacres. Here are some pictorial glimpses of the history of our country from 1757 to 1857. These pictures and speech bubbles will help clarify your understanding of the condition that led to the event known as the First War of Independence in 1857. First one is the Martyrs. The scene represents a function that took place in Delhi. Lata Mangeshkar can be seen singing Ye Mera Watan Ke Logon. Alongside her, Indira Gandhi, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and Lal Bahadur Shastri can also be seen. Second one, the Companys Conquest, 1757 to 1849. A conquest means the subjugation and assumption of control of a place or people by military force, conquering. The year 1757 bears the mark of being an important year in Indian history. The company rule, also known as the Company Raj, refers to the rule of British East India Company over parts of the Indian subcontinent. The East India Company was a private company owned by stockholders and reporting to the administration in London. The company came to India and set up a few factories at different places. However, the company's beginnings on coastal India offered no clues to what could become of a lengthy presence on the Indian subcontinent. Slowly and gradually, they began expanding and extending their dominance in India. One of the reasons they were able to do so is that they possessed superior weapons. Secondly, they took advantage of prevailing dispute circumstance among the Indian rulers. The Indian princes were not at peace among themselves. Indian princes, however, were short-sighted. Short-sighted means lacking imagination or foresight, which means they only consider immediately benefits but ignored its long-term consequences. So they took help from the English merchant to be able to defeat their rivals. This helped the British East India Company in successfully taking over control from the Indian rulers. The British adopted the divide and rule policy. Amongst all the short-sighted Indian rulers, there was one ruler of Mysore, Tipu Sultan, who understood their policy and fought against them till his last moment. The Indians, however, had varied opinion and reaction. The first set of people were very happy with the Britishers and were also grateful because they thought peace could finally prevail. They thought it put an end to war and looting by thugs. On the other hand, people saw what was actually happening. They knew that even if some of the princes were cruel, they were at least of their land. They had realized that they were now slaves of the Englishmen. Next is British rule, 1765 to 1836. These years led to the rise of widespread myths and taboos like untouchability, child marriage, inferiority of women, etc. Our own religion leaders taught everyone the idea of untouchability. Untouchability refers to the practice of ostracizing, excluding a minority group by segregating them from the mainstream by social custom or legal mandate, now outlawed in India. They were not allowed to come near those who considered themselves superior. not allowed in temples. The list of how they were discriminated against and deprived of the basic rights goes on. The religious leaders even preached that people who cross the seas will no longer belong to their religion. Preached means publicly proclaim or teach. Women were considered the root cause of lots of problems like poverty and other miseries. This is the reason why teenage girls were forced to marry, therefore leading to child marriage, now outlawed in India. These practices were not only being done but were also being promoted. Child marriage, marriage of a girl or a boy before the age of 18. The Britishers started looking down upon the Indians and initiated brainwashing the rulers against them. They alleged that Indians were not worthy of trust and incapable of honesty. This was a way of making the native slaves and getting control over them. Not only this, the British merchants laid heavy taxes on the poor farmers in greed of immediate profits. As a result, the farmers had to give up their lands. If this was not enough, they even threatened the farmers to imprison them and if they did not clear their errors. They continuously found ways to exploit the people and earn profits. For example, the goods manufactured in England were being promoted to India and no import duty was laid on them. The England produce was sold at high prices, whereas the Indian produce was taken away at much less prices, increasing poverty and misery of the farmers. Not only this, such a policy of British East India Company destroyed the Indian industries, small businesses and individual artisans were ruined. All this resulted in famines or extreme scarcity of food. Approximately 15 lakhs Indians starved to death between 1822 to 1836. The next is Ram Mohan Rai, 1772 to 1833. Raja Ram Mohan Rai was a well-educated man from Bengal. He was one of the first to realize that there was something wrong with our country. He was one of the belief that Indians must not consider themselves inferior or look down upon themselves. He believed that our ancient culture was great and the people were destined for greater achievements. According to him, the first step was to change the society by abandoning the prevailing superstitions. It was the root cause of all the problems. Once while having a conversation with his wife, he told her cows are of different colors, but the color of their milk is the same. This means the different teachers might have different opinion, but the essence of each religion is the same. He took keen interest in science and modern knowledge. According to him, knowledge should be practical and scientific. He even published newspapers which the Britishers stopped out of the suspicion in 1823. He was inquisitive to know what made the Britishers so powerful, so he crossed the seas and travelled to England. There he is known to tell Britishers that we as a nation accept their rule. He added that they must accept Indian as subject and not forget their responsibility and duty towards their subject. Raja Ram Mohan Rai is known for his efforts to abolish the practice of sati and child marriage. Next is Operation 1765 to 1835. Operation means prolonged, cruel or unjust treatment or exercise of authority. The Britishers continued to find new ways to bring misery and suffering to Indians. For instance, they passed unfair regulations that kept them at an advantage like Regulation 3 in 1818, under which the Indian could be jailed without a proper trial in court. As they continued to suppress Indians, they created all sort of favorable circumstances to afflict their officers. The British officers drew huge amount of salaries and could deepen their pockets by making a fortune out of their private businesses. The Britishers were exporting goods in huge quantity from Britain. By 1829, they were importing goods worth 7 crore rupees to India. As a result, the Britishers grew richer and richer, leaving the Indian industries high and dry. Governor General Bentinck had conveyed to Britain that the bones of cotton weavers are bleaching the plains of India. To highlight the plights and misery of the traditional cotton weavers in India, this means that the cotton weavers were forced to strike because of cotton mills set up by an Britishers. They produced much cheaper cloth with the help of the machine and led the traditional Indian handcrafts to extinction. The next is dissatisfaction, 1835 to 56. Back then, all the teachings were in the form of Persian and Sanskrit. So in 1835, a British officer named Macaulay suggested that they must translate all of it in English so that the education is delivered in their language. They did so to produce clerks to get their unimportant clerical tasks and administrative duties like answering the phone, typing documents, filing, and liaising with clients done. In the process of doing so, they manufactured a whole new generation of masterminds who wanted to uplift their brothers too by educating them. They wanted to strengthen their financial prospects that could lead to a promising future. But they needed to convey this to the British Parliament. Britishers, on the other hand, could not care less about the needs of the Indian people. By this time, Indian people had become more worried. The kings were now being treated as puppets. They had lost their old jobs and land. Britishers were forcing some of them to change their religion. Indians were tired of talking and wanted to do something. By 1856, the Britishers had acquired all parts of India. Next is the Sparks, 1855 to 57. The ever increasing taxes laid on the peasant continued to pressurize them and worsen their financial situation. Peasant means a poor smallholder or agriculture laborer of low social status. The Shantals in Bengal became disheartened and hopeless after they lost their land and Britishers under the new land rules. Shantals means a member of a large indigenous group living mainly in eastern India. In 1855, they launched a rebellion and massacred Europeans and all those who supported them. Rebellion means an act of armed resistance to an established government or leader. Massacred, deliberately and brutally killed many people. The people working under the East India Company were highly dissatisfied too. The fact that they gave Englishmen good pay, pensions, and other help, while they gave Indians only inadequate pay and slow promotion for the agitated Indians. They felt bad at that British urged them to move out of their land to cross the sea and work for them, which was even against their religion. They were motivated to drive the British out and Indian soldiers serving under the British or European orders. An Indian soldier serving under British or European orders named Mangal Pandey even attacked the adjutant of his regiment but was later executed. Around 1,000 of other sepoys like Mangal Pandey took violent action against the British but were only robbed of their uniform in turn to make the sepoys feel humiliated. Adjutant means a military officer who acts as an administrative assistant to a senior officer. Sepoys, an Indian soldier serving under British or other European orders. Some of the Englishmen even began to understand how Indians thought, how their mind works, and their customs. They told Brahmin soldiers that the bullet they were supposed to bite is covered with grease made of cow and pig fat. Next, chapatis were being sent to each home in every village, conveying that their services could be required to fight the Englishmen. People agreed, lotus flowers were circulated among the Indian soldiers. The nation stood against them with the support of the masses in the form of shelter and other help to patriots. Thank you.